In 1969, a group of astronauts changed the world. They walked on the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
In 1972, our journey ended. We've never been back. 2010 begins a year of change. Private companies are working on next-generation spaceships. Governments are looking to go back to the moon and on to Mars. It's time to look up and dream again. It's time to push humans into the cosmos. It's time to educate and engage the planet. It's time for Spacevidcast.
I'm still greatly amused every time I watch the chat room start up, and we've got the liftoff roll program. They're all giving me the go for show or go for launch, and some of them I don't know why that amuses me so much. I will probably never tire of that, and the only way you're ever going to see that is if you join us live. Welcome to Spacevidcast. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. With me is beautiful, lovely, wonderful, and talented Carrie Ann Higginbotham. We are your Spacevidcasters. I forgot to tell you the show. It's 3:08 for Friday, March 5th, 2010.
Wow.
Woo. All in one breath, I think.
That was a lot of numbers.
Wow. You know, and we just got back from SpaceUp, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But that was a very, very cool conference.
Oh, and awesome.
Yeah, we got some recap stuff. In fact, we're even our guest tonight. We found at SpaceUp, and it was just like an amazing Ignite talk. So we figured, we got to bring him on as soon as possible.
I think it was the best. It was
Ever.
the only one that got a standing ovation.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
It's the only
I was doing tech. I have no idea.
Yeah, Ben was doing this, but I was standing and applauding, and many other people were as well.
You know, and I'm going to refer to most people as their screen names because that was the fun thing at SpaceUp is I know their real names, but I mentally am like, that's Eva Dot, that's Rev, that's
I had a hard
DJ
time.
Dr. P.
Yeah, I had a hard time referring to people with their real names. That was highly entertaining.
So I'll probably continue to do that throughout the rest of the night. But Eva Dot brought up a really good point in email or on a blog post. I don't remember which. It might have been a blog post. Yeah, probably, exactly. And the point really was after going to SpaceUp, you really realize that you can't just talk about it. You got to start doing it as well. And one of the things we need to make sure that we do is not just educate but entertain, and also make sure that this is an exciting, awesome, epic show that you guys want to come back week after week. And obviously, you guys are all here, and we've got quite a few people because you missed us. But we always want to take it to the next level. We always want to make sure that when you come in, there's a high level of energy, there's a high level of information, but at the same time, there's a high level of entertainment. Because you don't want to just get all the info and like have your head explode, right? You want to have fun doing it too. Oh, GLXP's here.
Hi, Amanda.
Ooh.
You're so mean. Whatever, dude.
I know.
Seriously.
So, and it's a great community to work in, and it's the entire space community, not just the new space guys like us, because we're obviously we tend to lean towards new space a little bit. But the old space stuff is cool too. We like that. We do the space shuttle coverage, and we like to see what's going on there. But everyone in the community is awesome, and a good example of this is earlier today. And this is how it goes for everyone, and I know you'll all relate to this. I had a friend of a friend of a friend's son or daughter, I don't know which, basically.
Well, the best part is that, like, even if Ben knew who this person was, he wouldn't be able to remember anyway. But yeah, so we'll just go with a friend of a friend of a friend's kid.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's not the person I know's kid. It's like someone else's, like boom, 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 3 times down the chain.
Anyway.
And the kid wants to be an astronaut.
Right.
Which is awesome, right? I mean, yeah,
like
absolutely.
A 6th grader, right?
Yeah, 6th grader, right? And so, as a homework assignment, there were 10 questions that they had to give someone in their profession.
Right.
There have only been a little over 500 people that have gone to space. So there are only 500 people on the face of the planet and not even that many anymore.
Oh, was assuming the ones that aren't gone.
Yeah, exactly. Able to answer these questions.
Well, not necessarily though, but I mean, you know, the kid wants to be an astronaut, so that would be, you know, the preferred kind of thing. But you could theoretically talk to, you know, Beth Beck, I'm sure, could give really good answers. Sure. I'm sure Flying Jenny could give really good answers. Texas Fly Girl,
but let's be frank.
Absolute space.
Let's be frank. The astronaut's the way to go. Right?
If you want to be an astronaut, you want to ask an astronaut.
Now, in any profession where there are only 500 people in said profession, and you know, it's a really hard thing to get into. It's really competitive, especially for, you know, these astronauts. They're so constrained on time. I didn't expect getting any answer back, but I threw it out there. I threw it to a bunch of different people, hoping that one of them would stick. And the awesome guys over at Spaceflight Now, and we talk about them before. That's Miles O'Brien, David Waters. Well, there's a team of people, and Leroy Chow. They actually sent it over to Leroy. Leroy Chow. I think it's Dr. Chow actually. I got to get that right.
Dr. Leroy Chow.
Dr. Leroy Chow. And he took the time. He took the time to actually answer these kids' 10 questions.
And it was due today, right?
It was due today, so
he
got it today.
His Hail Mary email.
I did.
Hey, I think maybe Leroy would have about 2 minutes to answer these questions.
And he did. How cool is that? And how inspiring is that to these young kids to go, you know what? An actual astronaut, someone who's flown in space 4 times, on the space shuttle 4 times, answered these questions and got back to me today. And he or she, I suppose, is going to go to class, right? Exactly, guys, right? It's awesome.
I know. I think we're probably a little bit even more jazzed than this kid probably is. Like, oh, sweet, you got an astronaut. That's awesome.
And as
but we're like, wait, what?
Right. So it's what a great way to inspire a bunch of kids in a classroom. They're like, you know, I want to be a fireman. I want to be a police officer. Right. I want to be an astronaut. Here's someone who went into space. Here's how they answered those questions.
Right.
I just thought that was awesome. That's the community we work in.
Oh, that's just amazing.
I just think that's cool. So anyhow, I wanted to especially wanted to thank Dr. Chow for doing that, and everyone at Spaceflight Now who made that all happen, because I don't know this kid. I don't even know. I have no idea who this is. I really don't.
If you don't, that means that they really
don't. You know, I have no idea who it is. But I thought, you know, you can change the world one mind at a time, and I thought I would make the effort at least, and they did too, and I think that's awesome. That's the community we live in. I think that's crazy awesome, cool.
Totally amazing.
Then other things, SpaceUp was a wild smashing success, I think.
It was crazy. I mean, I know a lot of you guys weren't there, and I'm really, really sorry that you weren't, but even just, if I may, SpaceUp aside, you have to go to the freaking San Diego Air and Space Museum.
That was epic. Oh, check out my Flickr page, my Flickr Benjamin Higginbotham page. I've been uploading pictures. I don't have them all up there. There's a secret underground layer that isn't part of the normal museum where they actually like build the things. I have lots of pictures from under there. I think I have some videos. I have lots of pictures from under there. Well,
and just to add to how amazing the whole thing was, I mean, the Air and Space Museum was built for the 45-46, I believe, World's Fair. So it happens to be a round building, and it was sponsored by Ford, and the V8 was the big thing. And so if you go on like Google Earth, you can actually see this building's got a great big old V8 on top of it, which was really cool. Mm-hmm. And we were in the inner sort of rotunda, if you will. The whole thing is kind of like this indoor donut, and then there's this inner part that has a glass ceiling on it. It's actually open on the sides to the outside weather, which kind of sucked on Saturday because it was kind of cold, which is really funny coming from 2 Minnesotans. But trust me, it was a little chilly in there. But there are just like planes and like Apollo things and all the stuff like stacked on top of each other. I am on codeine, so you can just you can stop it right now. But it really was amazing. It was absolutely just fascinating to walk through there and see all of these different things and stuff that's been reproduced and things that have been restored. And like Ben was saying, they have this huge entire basement where stuff is being restored and stuff is being reproduced and whatnot. And these are from the guys who like probably worked on it originally. Like, oh yeah, that guy, he retired from Boeing, and so now he's over here helping us out with that. And this other guy, he retired from Northrop, and he's over here helping us out with that.
Best sticker I saw in there, by the way, said, it's not Boeing, I ain't going. I thought that was awesome.
That was an awesome sticker. It was very cool.
And Bruce and SD, we did get to see the moon rock. We were working so hard. We were running around trying to get the network back on.
We saw the air part, but not the space part of the museum for like almost the whole weekend.
So the whole museum shut down, and then we had to run over, like when it's all the lights are off, nothing's turned on, and Chris was nice enough to kind of accidentally walk us out the back way the last day of the conference, so we could at least
Chris, for that.
See some of it. Yeah.
Really amazing. Really, if you get a chance, please, please, please go. They are actually associated with the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, which is where they kind of get their name from a little bit. They have some incredible, incredible things to look at. And if you get a chance to get one of the little red jackets to walk around, because those guys are amazing. Even one of the guys that we worked with was like, oh yeah, and so I used to fly that, and it kind of had this, the stick was a little rough, and this, that, and the other, and it just totally fascinating. I was gobsmacked the whole time.
Now the chat room's been talking about, well, have you seen the Air and Space Museum in DC, which is...
I personally have not.
Right, and which is a good segue for me, because there's actually going to be a SpaceUp, because it was such a huge success, because these talks were so amazing. I mean, you had people like Maston doing a speech on the fiscal year 2011 NASA stuff and how it impacts people.
And then the other really good one, and I'm not sure if we actually got it, but Paul Breed, Dave Maston, and another guy, I forget who it was, but they all got together and they did a talk in entertaining stories about a startup, a space startup.
Yep.
And it was hysterical. And there must have been, I think they took about a third of the audience in their particular pod when they did their talk. It was amazing.
But to the point is, coming up, it was such a huge success that at SpaceUp San Diego, it was announced that there's going to be a SpaceUp DC as well. And you can go to www.spaceupdc.org, and that was going to be hosted by
Eva Dot himself. Mr. Dornbus.
And that's going to be awesome, because he's just an awesome kind of guy.
He's an amazing guy.
So that's going to be fallish of 2010, sometime later in the year. But if you're in that, so we've gone from one coast to the other coast. So if it's easier for you to reach the other coast, you should certainly go to that. I would actually say, in my humble opinion, SpaceUp was probably the best conference I've been to on any topic anywhere, not just space, but any tech topic. It really truly is taking the conversation out of the hallway and turning that conversation into a conference. And I wasn't, because I'd never been to an unconference before, so I wasn't sure how it would work. Anything less than smashing success would be, it was just absolutely awesome.
The funniest part was Chris was saying, Chris Radcliffe, that I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with, he was on the show, et cetera, et cetera. But he was saying, you have to understand, I'm such a fanboy of pretty much everyone on the guest list that just the idea that everyone showed up and they were in the same room was a success to me in the start. And he goes, and then you guys wanted to actually talk with each other, and I was just about floored. So it really is amazing just to look around. Actually, we were starting to set up a little bit. And Amanda, GLXP, was coming in with Rovi from GLXP. They have their own little rover, whatever. And so Amanda's coming in, she's bringing out the little posters, the GLXP Moon 2.0 posters. And who of all people in the universe is carrying Rovi in for her but Dave Maston himself? And I'm like, this is hurting my head. I can't even wrap myself around it. And everybody was just so awesome and so amazing and so interesting, no matter where you fell on the spectrum. It really was a great thing. And yeah, totally. Geek Mom was saying she'd like to see one here in Houston. Do it. Absolutely do it. The people at SpaceUp who did the original SpaceUp will support you in any way that they possibly can. And I'm sure because you are in, Houston, that you'll probably get some NASA help as well. I know NASA's kicking in, for all of the different SpaceUps. I know they're kicking in a little bit of help for the DC one, so I'm pretty sure they will probably...
I'm not sure that's official yet.
Yeah, I know it is.
Okay.
Anyway, not the point though. But do it. If you want to do it, do it. Just make it... Oh, Nick Skitlin's organizing a Houston one? Awesome. Geek Mom, if you need information on Skitlin, I can get that to you. Anyway, go on.
So that was a little bit of what was going on with SpaceUp, and again, if you got to make one, and they're not expensive for you to go, and hopefully we're going to start to see these pop up all across the country, because it really truly is an amazing format with amazing people and conversations that are second to none. And one of the really cool things were the Ignite talks, and there was a very, very passionate Ignite talk by Andy Cochrane.
Really?
Yeah, I have no idea how to pronounce his last name. We're just going to call him Andy. That's what we're going to do. He's laughing at me right now. You just can't hear him. He's shouting. He's like, "This is how you do it!" But we can't hear him because he's muted on the audio board. Don't you bring him up yet. And I wanted to give you just a quick taste of the presentation that he made at SpaceUp. So here you go. Here's his part of his Ignite talk.
Oh, there we go. This is NASA TV. Anyone's watched it? Did you stay awake for more than 5 seconds? This is the most boring thing ever. Seriously. They are talking to people on a space station that is going 18,000 miles an hour. We have a space station. We have a space shuttle. How cool are those names? Right now, they're talking about her and that she's sitting at her desk. I pulled this down from NASA TV this morning. This is today. NASA's killing space. Why? I'll tell you why. There are no human beings in space. There are robots in human bodies, okay? They're not allowed to talk like human beings, and they don't tell us what space is like. These guys, these were people, right? They had wives, they had kids, they had, lives. They talked about space. They were fighter pilots. They were cool. Everybody wanted to be them. Everyone loved them. We knew who they were. Name 2 astronauts. Oh, good. Okay. We got 6 in space. We should have had 6. Okay, so seriously, this is one of the coolest things a human being has ever seen, ever. And it gets described like, the space station is entering into... It's boring. It's insanely boring. So the public, right? We got a crisis. The public's going, why the hell are we paying for this? Seriously, we've got our own problems. Why are we funding this? Well, it's simple. NASA's not telling us what they're doing. They're telling us what they're doing in an incredibly technical, incredibly technical sense, but they're not telling us what they're actually doing. And then we only pay attention when things go horribly wrong. This is one of the biggest things that ever happened in my life. This is Challenger. My mom picked me up from school. She was crying. That shouldn't be the biggest thing that happened in space. This is cool. This is awesome, right? But it's not NASA. This is private enterprise, right? This is cool. These are people, right? We know who these people are. We know who he is, at least. We certainly know who he is, right? They're people. We know who these people are, right? These are people that are going into space and talking to us and twittering and blogging and they're humans. We can interact with them. They can look at Earth from 250 miles up, traveling 18,000 miles an hour, and tell us what it looks like and put it in human terms, right? They can explain it to us in a way that touches us and grips us, right? So why does NASA sideline them? Why do they sideline space tours? Why do they say that it's not important, that what they do is important? So what does NASA have to do? NASA has to convince us that they're worth it. They need to tell us why they need $19 billion, what they're going to do with it, and why it's important. There's people in that. That's our home. This is awesome, right? This is incredible. And seriously, this is the first time I saw this photo. I pulled this down this morning. I bet these people have names. Right? And I bet they have families, and I bet when they go into space, they feel things, right? And they could probably tell us what those things are. And they could tell us what being in space is. So this is going away, right? Constellation's canceled. So what the hell is our $19 billion going for, right? What are we going to do next? What are we doing? As far as they know, we're sending robots to Mars, which is awesome. But we're sending people that are just faceless robots into a multi-billion-dollar or $100 billion space station. So what can we do, right? It's on us. I don't trust NASA. They've got a corporate culture that's not going to start switching around and all of a sudden allowing astronauts to actually tell us what they feel. So we need to educate. We need to.
And that's just part of the speech, right? We actually a good chunk of the speech, but there's a beginning and an outro, and Andy goes into it. And we've actually got Andy joining us right now. Andy, welcome to Spacevidcast. That was a very passionate presentation.
No, it was so boring. Go on.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I did this intro completely wrong. Come back to me. Let me try this again. Let me try this again. Let me do the intro proper style.
All right, go ahead.
We've got Andy joining us from the SpaceUp conference, who gave an Ignite talk, very passionate speech that he was able to do. We've got him joining us now. Andy, if you could tell us a little bit.
I can't do it.
About you. I know it's hard to do.
I wish I could.
Tell us a little
can't.
bit about your talk. So, in all actuality, what made you decide to do that particular Ignite speech?
That's kind of, I sort of, Mike Dornbos, the night before, sent me a Twitter message and said, "Are you doing an Ignite talk?" And I had to Google Ignite talk, so I Googled Ignite talk.
Right on.
And saw what the format was and said, well, you know, there's only one thing really that I would have to talk about, and that's that NASA, I'm almost 30 years old, and in that time, the manned program, and I should be clear that my speech was about the manned program, because I think the unmanned program, especially what JPL is doing a great job. The manned program is doing incredible things and managing the incredible feat of making them insanely boring. And so in my lifetime, you know, there's a complaint in my generation that NASA's boring, they don't do anything interesting. And I've always felt the opposite. NASA does incredible things, and then they somehow manage to present them in a manner so boring that even I can't get behind them. So that was kind of the gist of the speech, and I basically made the slides that morning and didn't really rehearse it except for just kind of thinking what I might say. So there's a lot of that speech that was just kind of nerves mixed with lack of preparation. So
no, but I mean,
much like this show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you guys know what it's like.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but in all reality, though, I think that would be the best way to have done that. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you really, like, over-rehearsed it, then it would have been like, hey, this sucks, doesn't it? And it wouldn't have had the same passion behind it. Does that make sense?
I agree, and the only thing I would change is I really wish I had had a bottle of water.
Yeah.
That would have changed everything. I was basically unable to swallow from about 30 seconds in, and I wish I could have changed that, but
well, no, I just made you shout more so you could try to get the. It was good. So
it gave it that you know, choking up. That wasn't actually choking up. It was choking up.
So, all right, let's just assume for a moment that NASA really can't make a whole lot of changes here, right? I mean, you made a good point in your speech that NASA needs to convince us that they're worth it. And as you're talking about now, really the Human Spaceflight Program. But what if they really can't change it? Is there something that we as American citizens can do to help make it more exciting? I mean, yeah, NASA TV is one outlet, but what about other ways to make this exciting to our family and friends and people around us?
I think one thing, you guys are doing it right now. You're taking all the, you know, press releases and photos and videos and materials and people working in aerospace and making the non-PR machine controlled version of the narrative of what we're doing in space. You know, what it is that we're doing right now. So, you know, you guys are the tip of the spear, and I wish that there were, you know, 10,000 people doing the same thing. Although you probably wouldn't, because in the competition,
no, actually, quite the opposite. Strong. We want the same thing. I don't know if you know this. The reason we wanted to bring you on is because much the same thing, much like what you talked about. We were watching NASA TV. Well, I was watching NASA TV. I'm like, this sucks. And so I said, I think I can do better. And that's what Spacevidcast was born out of.
Wait. I will say, though, that one of the reasons that you were watching NASA TV way back in the day was because it was one of the very few things that was on an HD.
That's true.
And so I would walk by the TV and go, why are you watching grass grow? And he would be like, it's an HD and it's beautiful. And I'm like, you are insane. And then he found NASA TV, and it was the same thing to me, actually. I looked at it and was like, yeah, pretty clouds, I get it. You know, like, yes, it's gorgeous, but I can't stare at that for, 3 hours out of my day. It's just, that's ridiculous. And when he told me that he wanted to do a space podcast, I said, you're insane. You have fun with that. And in 2 weeks, when you've got nothing else to talk about, then we'll talk again. And it'll be 3 years. Actually, it'll it is 3 years now.
I think this is our 3-year anniversary show, actually.
Yeah, and
by the way, welcome to our 3-year anniversary show, everyone.
But no, exactly how you're saying. You know, I'm a convert, and that's great and all, but I still don't know how to talk to other people who aren't interested in space. You know, explain to other people what it is that we do. I say that we do a podcast on space, and everyone goes, on what?
Well, and I guess that's kind of the point that I'm getting at, which is, you know, it's not just NASA TV, it's all of our responsibility. So do you have any suggestions for someone else to try to do a passionate plea to other people to get them excited about space, other than creating a podcast? I mean, this is obviously one way to do it, but what else can they do? Tweeting, Facebooking, something elsing?
Well, I mean, the real goal, there's a lot we can do on an individual and kind of one-on-one level. Tweeting's great, you know, Facebook status updates are great, but really, I think the thing that's going to have the largest impact is going to be this private, you know, corporate space. Mm-hmm. The documentary Black Sky, it's about Spaceship One. That's one of the most moving and in-depth and engaging documentaries about space that I've seen, and I have watched almost everything Netflix has, and Black Sky is one of the best ones, and I think it's because they not only produced it themselves, but there was access and humanity. And you know, when you know, when the wives are watching and crying, you know, why don't we have footage like that on NASA TV? And I don't think they'll ever put it on. So what we can kind of do on an individual level is sort of demand it on a certain level, and use Twitter and use Facebook not to just kind of repost press releases, but to call them out. I mean, NASA is listening. You know, at NASA is a human being on there, and if they get 2 million tweets, you know, just it's almost like writing your congressman, but instead it's tweeting your NASA representative, right? And just saying, you know, you're boring America out of its interest in space, and space is the most awesome thing ever. That is NASA's biggest engineering feat. Hundreds of billions of dollars, millions of man hours to somehow make space disinteresting. And, you know, I think we can demand that they stop it. We can demand that they let the astronauts talk, and that their tweets not be basically their press release in 140 characters. Right. That, you know, that they unshackle access. And, you know, that may never happen, but we can certainly demand it. And then on a personal level, you know, not just podcasts, you know, write short fiction, write novels, make web series, write a feature film, you know, pitch a TV show, do something big, something grand. And I think enough people should be able to do that will be okay.
Well, I'll even argue, excuse me, it only takes one voice to change the world. And so it might be your voice, you never know. And if this is something you're passionate in, you should absolutely do something. I mean, make it your hobby, make it your passion, make it your love. I mean, that certainly is what we've got going on here. And it doesn't have to be video, it doesn't have to be podcast. It's anything you just mentioned. I think are great ideas. Writing, novels, all that.
Can I ask an odd question?
Oh, yeah.
Shush.
This is a coding question. Coding question coming in.
Well, how do you feel about, now granted, this man is old enough and he's definitely earned it. He can do whatever he gosh darn well pleases.
Oh, I know exactly where you're going with this.
But how do you feel about Buzz Aldrin being on Dancing with the Stars?
You know, I'm okay with it. I am. I think it's kind of silly. I don't personally love all the, you know, the Dancing with the Stars and American Idol and all that and all the reality shows, but right. I don't think it can hurt. And I think it would be even more effective if it, instead of being Buzz Aldrin, and he comes from the generation of astronauts who were people. Right. He comes from the generation where they were, you know, awesome. they tried to control them. They were awesome. They were incredible. Yeah. But they were actually doing less than our astronauts now. They were actually less awesome, but they were allowed to be people. And right. So, you know, him being on Dancing with the Stars, yeah, whatever, that's great. But if we had somebody on the ISS, you know, either as they were on the ISS or after their mission ended on Dancing with the Stars, that's That's way more effective. Show them as people. Let them, you know, let them do what the astronauts did during the Apollo program. You know, go on TV shows and talk.
Right,
you know, I have a million suggestions for NASA, and I don't think they'll ever take them. But I think there's a lot they could do.
And I don't know.
Oh, go ahead.
I would argue that maybe they will. NASA, it's not like NASA's this big evil entity that doesn't listen to people.
It's
that they're a large government.
No,
I know. I'm just saying that they're a large government organization. It takes them time to shift and change and move. But I feel like they're making the effort. I feel like they're actually trying. I mean, look at what they're doing with Twitter. If you look at other government organizations, I think NASA's on the forefront of new media and social media from a governmental standpoint. But you know, obviously, when you compare it to other organizations, you know, actual new media companies and other things like that, they're nowhere near that. But at the same time, you got to kind of put it all into context. I don't think it's completely fair to say to NASA. And I think actually, if you gave them some suggestions, I think they would listen. I know that your video, at least, is making the rounds at NASA right now.
Well, yeah, and I think we should all. That's kind of what I was saying. You know, let's hit them with millions of tweets. You know, the million tweet march or something, hitting them with suggestions. If they get it enough and they get enough demand, they certainly might change course. My only thing is we should not we shouldn't keep all of the eggs in their basket anymore. We need to take them out of the NASA basket, because right now they're in charge of inspiring everyone about space, and I think we need to kind of take some personal responsibility for that, and you know, and push them to do better with what they've got. But I don't think we should just kind of sit back and armchair quarterback and tell them they need to do a better job. So, you know, I've got a bunch of ways they could do better, and I've been throwing them out at them. So the Open Government site for NASA has a bunch of really good suggestions. Some of them are things that I was screaming about at the Ignite talk, and some of them are things I never thought of before. So people are talking. I don't think we should, you know, that shouldn't be the entirety of our plan as a species.
Right.
All right, now I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I apologize for doing this, but really quickly, we're going to do this all Letterman style. Can you give me your top 10 list of things that you think NASA should change?
I'll try to get to 10. I probably will fall very short, but they're big. The astronaut selection process is American Idol. It's thousands of people applying for 3, 4, 5, 6 positions. Hire 1 or 2 veteran reality show producers. They'll be expensive, but they'll be certainly cheaper than losing your entire budget. And have them run a multi-season TV show that follows those astronauts. Is it a 3-year training process, I think? Something like that.
I have no idea, actually. But you know, that would be cool, because if you could, if there were like 1 or 2 mission specialists that were chosen by the people, the American people.
Like Mike Massimino.
Yeah, exactly. Like they've narrowed it down to these 3 people. Now you have to send in your vote.
Right.
How cool would that be? Because now these astronauts are astronauts of the people.
That would be cool.
And people will care. So point 2 would be on launch day, cover it the way you know, NASCAR has been mentioned. NASCAR's really boring.
Yeah.
They just turn left 4 times and then repeat 500 times. But everyone watches NASCAR. It's one of the most viewed sports in the world. And you know, curling is boring, but it's fun because they tell you who the underdogs are, they tell you who the veterans are, they tell you the background on everyone. So, you know, if you've followed these astronauts through their selection process, on launch day, you're going to care. And you're not going to want it to blow up. And you're going to want it to make it to space. And you're going to want to hear, when it gets to space, how it's going and what they're thinking about.
Well, I'm going to pause you again. That's a great point.
Yeah.
I think most people watch today because they're on death watch.
Right.
They're waiting for it to explode, and then once they get past go at throttle up, they go somewhere else.
Right, because it doesn't.
Partly because that's where the news stations go too. But that's a great point. If they're invested in the shuttle actually making it all the way up, or whatever craft it might be, they're not watching for death watch. They're watching to root their guy on.
Right.
Or gal.
Right.
That's a brilliant point.
Well, I mean, it's really simple, but it's almost like, you know, we need a citizen broadcast of the shuttle launches. You know, where we take the NASA feed and re-edit it and send. Why don't we see the families during a launch? You know, why don't we have a camera on them? Why don't, you know, I know there's a crowd there. Why do we only see that footage in a documentary 2 years later? So then I don't know if I'm on 2 or 3.
I think you're on 3. Well,
I think I'm on 3.
Just, you know, let's go to 5. This is going to take all night if we get you. So let's go to like 5. Yeah.
I don't even know if I have 5. So the people that are twittering at NASA right now, a lot of it is basically just press releases at, you know, 140 character length,
right?
And there's no humanity there, and you know, it's almost even worse than not having a Twitter stream, because it's using Twitter as part of a PR machine instead of what it is, which is supposed to be people communicating. It's supposed to bring people together. Twitter is all about being able to directly talk to Shaquille O'Neal and have him respond. And even though you're nobody in the middle of nowhere, Shaquille O'Neal answered your question.
Right.
And so NASA needs to open the floodgates. They need to allow the people who are twittering to be human, to respond to tweets, and, you know, basically, I'm sure they'll still want to filter them, but be a lot more lax with it and a lot more open. And they have to fix NASA TV, just in general. They have a satellite broadcast network that is viewable by almost every single human being in America, and I'm sure all over the world. And it's worse than B-roll. It's
no, it is B-roll.
It is B-roll.
Half the time they're running B-roll packages.
At least B-roll has cool things sometimes. You know, it's B-roll, but it's like C-roll. It's like the stuff that you know wouldn't even make it into the B-roll compilation of these are actually cool things. I just think it's a completely wasted opportunity. It's this huge mouthpiece. What I was talking about, you know, my point 1 and 2, you know, show us the astronaut selection process and cover major events in an interesting fashion. They don't have to convince NBC to give them, you know, a 1 hour time block. They don't have to pay for it. It's already paid for. It's already part of the budget. They have a 24/7 unfiltered, you know, network, and nobody has that. And I can't understand how they could waste it as badly as they are. So that's a huge thing. There should be science fiction run on there, things that are where the science is accurate, but, you know, show like short films and feature films, and then have the filmmakers do a Q&A for a half hour and talk about, you know, the science behind what they did. Totally. You know, there's a lot of opportunity, and it's not even on their radar.
You know, and the chat room is even bringing up good ideas, and you've got a great conversation going. So, you know, we'll continue the conversation. We're going to end this show shortly here, but we'll continue the conversation in post-show. But they brought up a really great point, which is follow different positions around. A day in the life of the crawler operator.
Yeah, how
Wouldn't that be
cool.
awesome to watch the guy who actually drives this $1.7 billion vehicle out to the launch pad, what kind of pressure he's under?
Yeah.
I mean, they have to like water down the road in front of him and just making sure, don't screw up, don't roll it. I mean, there's a great way to tell these stories. Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Andy. Where can people go to just get in contact with you? You know, on Twitter, email, your webpage, Facebook, stuff like that, so they can help, you know, continue the conversation with you one-on-one if they wanted to.
My Twitter is AV Club Vids, as in audio visual club videos. AV Club Vids, and our website is theavclub.tv, as in television. So that's where we're at.
Awesome. Stay with us. We're going to keep talking to you in post-show. But for now, thank you very much for joining us. I think it was an inspiring speech given at SpaceUp, and certainly very valid points. And I think these are fairly easy things that NASA can do. They won't cost a whole lot of money, that they can do to really help improve public perception of our own space agency. And that's what they are. They're our space agency. Mm-hmm. So, so thank you for joining us. We'll continue the conversation in post-show. It was great, and we're gonna keep that rolling. And certainly anyone in the chat room, get in contact with anyone. You know, leave comments in our chat room, leave them on YouTube, leave them on Twitter. We'll get in contact with you. I mean, we'll communicate back and forth. Andy will. This is something that we need to keep talking about, because these are easy things for NASA to do for our space agency.
And open.gov/NASA.
There you go. I think they're listening. I mean, they're trying to make these changes. They just need some help, right? They're a government agency. They just need a little bit of help to make all of this stuff go. All right. You know what? I can't quite end the show yet. I did forget one thing. Andy, you're still with us, right?
Yep, I'm still here.
There's a very important question I forgot to ask you. This is the most important question of the entire show.
No, it's not.
No,
Are you ready for this?
I am ready.
What is your favorite space shuttle?
Ooh. Mm-hmm. Oh, man. Now, this one...
There is a right answer.
My favorite, and this is it's going to sound bittersweet or sad. My favorite's Challenger, and I think the mission and the mission that it exploded on, and the whole Teacher in Space program is the most exciting thing that NASA's done in my lifetime on the manned side. And I was 6, and so I was just starting to get excited about space, and they just kind of let it die. And yeah, it's a Challenger.
Yeah, that was a sad moment. Unfortunately, that was the wrong answer. The correct answer was Atlantis. The actual answer was Atlantis.
God.
We're human. What? I mean, come on. What? All right, thanks everyone for joining us. We'll be live with you next week right here at spacevidcast.com, I think, because you're going to be in Austin, Texas for South by Southwest. We will not be able to bring you that coverage live. She'll be giving a presentation. We are, however, going to attempt to record it. No guarantees. We're going to attempt to record it.
We're doing everything we can.
And we'll make that available if we're able to make it go. There's lots of ifs and maybes, and we're not sures, but if we're able to make it go...
We should be able to do the show on Thursday.
We'll figure that part out. If we're able to make that go, the recording of her presentation, it will be available only to Epic subscribers. So go to spacevidcast.com/epic to watch that. Now, the rest of the SpaceUp presentations, there's no difference between the regular version and the Epic version, simply because the bandwidth was so low.
It was so bad.
There was no possible way we were going to be able to get anything HD out there for you, the Epic subscribers. I apologize. We wanted to. Not going to happen. So it is what it is. We're going to post everything we have of SpaceUp on the website, but we're limited to what we were able to capture, but that's limited to our bandwidth. If you guys have any questions on that, certainly shoot us an email, and we can answer that. Otherwise, over the rest of the week and over this weekend, we'll continue to post more and more SpaceUp content on the website. And I think you can watch that by going to spacevidcast.com/SpaceUp. I think that will actually show you just this. Let me find out.
For sure, watch the moon pie eating contest, where we do have spoilers ahead.
It does. Look at that.
A new winner.
We have a new world champion for the moon pie eating contests. But even more than that, the conferences and the sessions at SpaceUp were flippin' amazing. These are some incredibly intelligent people.
You really need to be there.
You needed to be there, and if you got to go. SpaceUpDC.org is the next one, and hopefully we'll see a bunch of these around the country. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you next week, maybe.